The next 20 to 30% move is a brewing here for Bitcoin. And in today's video, I'll be going over the price levels that would effectively confirm what direction that move very likely happens in. And other than that, I want to acknowledge all of the feedback that I got on Friday. No more subtitles going forwards, just trying some new things out, that's all. But I do appreciate the feedback. And yeah, we won't include it on these regular videos. We'll save it for the shorts. And also, I didn't do the best job of explaining that we're going to be having a sale for the 4th of July starting last Friday, but it will be running until Wednesday. Maybe we extend that until the end of the week. The code is USA in all capitals for the 4th of July enjoyers out there. And then, of course, you can also get a 7-day free trial for all of our major services without any code. And that is in the Teachable link in the description below. We'll be using some of those tools, of course, as always during this video. In fact, we'll start it off right with one of those tools, a part of Caretaker's Indicator Suite. And this is the daily price statistics. And we can see that Monday is actually quite interesting because since the bull market began in 2023, Monday has been the most likely day to close positively, with just under 59.5% of all Mondays during that time period closing positively versus about 40.5% of those Mondays closing negatively. And that massively overshadows any other day, no matter whether it's a weekday or a weekend, as most of them are, close to that 50% mark. Now, in terms of the average percent gain and average percent loss for those Mondays, on the positive side, 2.79% gained, and on the losing side, about 2.25% lost. And to put that in terms of price action, that would imply a range high for today based off of the averages at about $112,315. And I believe that would be new all-time highs. Holy shit, new all-time highs? What? And then, of course, to the downside, that would give us a nice buffer to about 106,771. So that's very likely the range for today, at least, going off of the averages. We kind of expect price action to be within there. And yeah, if you're going to be bullish on any day, Monday is probably the best day to do that. But again, does 59.5% mean that it is 100% guaranteed to go up today? Yes, absolutely. That's how statistics work, because we're lobotomized fucking morons who do not understand the very, very not so subtle differences between certainties and statistics. But hey, in a more sincere tone, yeah, it's not guaranteed, obviously. Nothing is guaranteed, but that's why we use probabilities. Anyways, moving on from there, I want to go into the big setup that we'll be continuing to follow up on these videos, probably every day until it fires off. If you've been on this channel for a while now, you know exactly where I'm going with this. And if you've been in this channel for, about a year, you've probably seen at least one or two of these setups fire off. They're usually pretty epic. Pretty much all of Bitcoin's major moves come off of this setup. It's a 2-day time frame setup and a 5-day time frame setup, looking at volatility versus stochastic momentum. And I want to acknowledge that the 2-day time frame has seen BBWP at historically low levels. In fact, literally getting to 0.40 percentile in the past couple closures here. And realistically, this is only comparable with the volatility levels that we saw, maybe from October of 2022. Now, obviously, that was a downside resolution, but volatility is direction neutral. So being that it has been this low for this long, that is implying that this next move, this next explosion of volatility is going to be a massive one. Moving on to the 5-day time frame right here, we can see that this one is also simultaneously at 0 percentile as of right now. So these setups combined with each other typically account for the biggest, baddest moves in Bitcoin's history, especially when they're combined and in the same direction. So once we see both of those in fully contracted volatility stances, which is basically below 15% percentile for these timeframes, then we go ahead and reference the stochastic oscillator, and whatever direction that is in, when you get the first expansion of volatility confirmation, which has not happened just yet, in fact, still contracting, that is when you have extremely high probability for a very big move in that direction, typically over the next 3 weeks to 5 weeks. Anyways, looking at the 2-day time frame right now, if volatility were to start to expand today, this one would actually be positioned to the upside. The current pivot is 107,180. It will also be updating later today as well. But in order for this one to confirm volatility expansion, we need to see the BBWP above that 15 percentile marker on a closing basis. And if you front run these things, obviously you run, you potentially get a lot more potential reward, but you also run the issue with, bigger potential losses. The 5-day time frame, rather similar as well. Again, very, very low levels of BBWP right here. But this one is actually positioned to the downside. It's obviously not closing today, but the current pivot is 109,558. That does imply that in the next period, which closes on Wednesday night, well, if Bitcoin's below 109,558, this is going to start to look like a setup that is favoring the downside. Again, this one would also need to pop back up above that 15 percentile marker to confirm volatility expansion. But as of right now, we see the 2-day and the 5-day showing different directions than each other, but they're both at, very, 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 very high levels already. So what is kind of the picture that I'm painting here? The picture that I'm painting is that if this is going to resolve to the upside, we expect Bitcoin really to be above that $109,500 region by this next 5-day period closure, which is going to be Wednesday night. There is an event on Wednesday, I believe, as well. And if Bitcoin's below there, again, it doesn't necessarily confirm that volatility expansion has happened. Like, that will happen when it happens, but that would just mean that the probabilities now favor the downside. But as of right now, they're split. We don't really have a major, implication on either side. So I'll go over the statistics for both. If we go over the 2-day time frame long setup, so I'm only testing the long setups right here. There's been 21 prior setups in Bitcoin's history. 17 of those have worked out in that direction when the volatility starts to expand, with the 2-day time frame stochastic oscillator also positioned to the upside. The average return for this one is about 27.73, and the time taken is just under 3 weeks. With the standard deviation for the average returns at about 10%. So, putting that into perspective, if we were to start to see this, expand on the next one, like let's say it confirmed today, then we would be taking the most recent low, adding about, let's just call it 30% basically. That would put Bitcoin very high, actually, about 130 to 135,000, and that'd give us a time frame again within like the next 3 weeks. So that puts us into the last week of July. That would be for the 2-day time frame setup. The 5-day time frame setup has only fired off 16 prior times in Bitcoin's history, but anytime that we've seen volatility expansion confirmed on the 5-day time frame, alongside that stochastic oscillator also being positioned to the upside, well, it's actually worked out 100% of the time. It has not failed. Now, obviously, at some point in time, I do expect this setup to fail. Like, duh, fucking use your brain. But for right now, I'm like speaking to myself, but reprimanding you. But for right now, it is 100% probability, at least as of this moment. The average return for this one, obviously a lot bigger at about 41.70%. The standard deviation on that, about 11.75. And the average amount of time taken is 34 days. So if this one fired off simultaneously, we're probably in for a very, very explosive move over the course of the next little over a month. And again, putting that, those numbers into perspective, basically 40% puts Bitcoin at 150,000. I mean, that seems like a lot. Now, again, like I said, until we get volatility expansion confirmed, this one can flip around, multiple ways. And I would say that it is somewhat concerning here for the Bulas that we're already seeing momentum get into some pretty critical territory, both on the 2-day and the 5-day timeframe. So that does imply that if you are going to be bullish, you do expect this thing to start moving to the upside. I would say this week, certainly no more than 5 days from the next period. So that would be Wednesday to Sunday, I guess. Otherwise, again, it's just, you're looking for a reset at best and an actual break to the downside at worst. And to go over the downside variety of these setups, the 2-day time frame actually does have a pretty high win rate when the same setup fires off. Of course, in the downside direction, 17 out of 20 of these iterations have worked out with subsequent downside. The average return on those was about 25%, which is like pretty fucking big. I mean, again, shaving that off from the top of Bitcoin, 25% puts you all the way down into like the mid 80s. Like it's quite a lot. The 5-day time frame obviously going to be even bigger, and that one is going to be showing again about an 80% strike rate out of 10 prior iterations. Historically, there have been 8 that have worked out with significant downside direction, taking it a little over a month as well, and the average return on these losing about 30 to 8.5%. So if Bitcoin were to play that out from here, I mean, I think this makes it a little bit less likely and doesn't necessarily need to get all the way down here. And again, these are averages. Like, you could also just go off of the fucking, what's it called? You could also look at the standard deviation for that to get a more accurate representation, but that would be a 6 handle on price. So again, I am biased to the upside here just based off a trend, just based off of most other things. But, this does imply that Bitcoin, if it is going to be bullish, I really do expect it to start moving to the upside like this week. And if things go much past this week without Bitcoin moving to the upside, you just kind of get one of those scenarios where it's like Bitcoin Bulas have kind of used their momentum for now, and we go into a bit more of a consolidation, or consolidation lower, let's say. Anyways, regardless of all this, I actually do think that Bitcoin has a little bit of a short-term pullback here in the interim. Looking at the bi-weekly timeframe for CME, we can see that the HPDR did actually close above the 38.2 level, which is good. Like, don't get me wrong, this is actually good. But, does Bitcoin pop back down and retest this 38.2 level before trying some upside over the next 2-week period? Yeah, I think that that's more likely, to be honest with you. So on CME, that could be all the way down down to about 107,800. Doesn't need to get all the way down there, but somewhere around there, maybe a little bit lower, maybe a little bit higher, but somewhere around there. Where does that put spot price action? Maybe very low 107s. And you know, if Bitcoin came down around there, I'd be looking for a bounce if it is indeed going to be bullish as well. You know, to go over here, I think that there's a pretty obvious area, you know, for getting bearish, and that is really below like 10. I mean, technically you should be waiting for this one right here, which is last Wednesday's low. That's all the way at 105.5. I don't think that you need to wait all the way for that, or, you know, I'm not your fucking financial advisor or your father, but I can tell you that I wouldn't necessarily be waiting all the way for that. I would say below 107, things start to look a lot more iffier, or maybe let's just call it 106.500, you know, a nice daily below there, especially on a closing basis. Yeah, this thing is very likely getting ready to come much lower, probably down to like 101, 102 region. Then we come back to it after that. But, you know, for right now, Bitcoin remains in a strong position for the Bitcoin BULAs. And there are, you know, some other things as well that do suggest Bitcoin does probably get a try here. By the way, daily time frame also showing extreme low volatility levels for a very long time. And momentum is still to the upside right here. Again, same issue, though. That is getting, you know, very, very high without Bitcoin actually breaking these highs just yet. 108, 200 is the current pivot. But where's the chart that I wanted to get to? Yeah, it was a stablecoin dominance chart. Or did we want to go over this? For some reason, people really don't like this chart. I don't know why, but it provides more of a short-term / medium-term bullish bias. You can see that this, what do you want to call this? Do you want to call this a rising wedge? Is starting to break down right here. I mean, it's still going to take some time. This is a bi-weekly time frame, obviously, but, you know, does it come back down to like 740? Providing some relief for the crypto tokens and assets? Probably, yeah. Or at least that would be my sort of bias here. And I still think that, you know, this bull market ends when we see this chart get back down to the blue box, somewhere within the vicinity of that. That is very likely where I'll be looking for at least a major high on Bitcoin, maybe the macro high, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself right here. Anyways, what else do we have? I think that's pretty much it. We can go take a quick, oh fuck, I completely forgot to mention this as well. Okay, so also on the Bitcoin BULAs side, we have another setup, another major setup that, you know, if you've been on this channel for, especially like the past half year, you've seen these things fire off. This is the 5-day 5 EMA setup. By the way, we're using, of course, the Quant Prime service to backtest this one. You can see the results here from the past 10 years, you know, just continually grinds its way up and to the right. This is a strategy that is designed to just catch all of the big trending moves. For example, like what we saw here from the early April rally, where it did catch the long at 83,630 and closed it all the way here, well above 100,000 or well above 105. And what do you know? Recently, Bitcoin reclaimed the red 5 EMA, and as of right now, it is still above it. So that trade is open at 106, 123. And, you know, if Bitcoin is going to break out, I mean, this would be the position to do it from, meaning that we really don't even expect any closures below the 5 EMA when I look at it from this perspective. That is currently at 107, 737. And again, going through the performance and trade analysis of this one, actually, the trade analysis is probably going to be better on this. Yes, there we go. Trading view always switch around their damn shit. The average winning trade at 37.5%, you know, does correlate quite well with the 5-day volatility versus stochastic momentum setup. So we see that these things are kind of going in the same direction. The average amount of bars in winning trades is 10. The average amount of bars in losing trades is 2. So the longer that this goes on without failing, the more and more likely that it is to be a winner. This one's already seen 1 bar close. This would be the second bar on Wednesday. If Bitcoin, again, doesn't come back down below like 107.5 or especially like 107 from that period, maybe one more period after that, then I'd say that this does definitely favor the BULAs here. And, you know, you already know what 40% on top of current price action looks like. That's like 150-ish region. So fair enough, you know, that is there for you. By the way, for the people in the Quant Prime, it's really, really quiet right now. So I'm sure that many people didn't see this, but over the weekend, I was working with one of our community members, Pesto, fucking great guy, awesome guy. And we were trying to devise a way to put into action my sort of long-term investment strategy. And we actually came up with a pretty cool strategy and actually posted it in the Quant Prime library. So if you are interested in such things, if you're thinking about this from a perspective of like, you know, multi-year long investment with no leverage, you can't fucking trade these sort of things on leverage, then that would be essentially what I'm doing, you know, for Bitcoin. And then on top of that, for the more active lower term time frame traders, we got the quantum wave bands right here. This one was was decently active last week despite being pretty boring week. Caught a couple of these good longs over here. Took a loss recently over the weekend, or yeah, over the weekend right here. And it's actually long right now as well at 108.500-ish region. Did kind of see a nice P&L in your favor right there. But yeah, this one actually has not closed just yet. As always, you know, with these setups, and same thing with the meta signals as well. It's like, if you want to take the entries and then manage it yourself on the exits, like, it's completely fine, or vice versa for the entries, or vice versa for the whole thing. You know, can't just be looked at as a nice indication of a probabilistic setup as usual. Anyways, all of those things are there for you. I think that's good. That's a good place for me to sign off. A little bit of a longer video today, but it's been a long weekend. I missed recording videos. It's fun, man. It's really fun, actually. Tomorrow we'll do a live stream as usual, and yeah. Other than that, want to wish you the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully next time.